And okay, let me click that off.
It looks like we have a quorum now.
Great. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our December Community Board 8 full board meeting. My name is Laura Spalter. I'm chair of the board, and welcome to all. So we start, as always, with our public gallery session, and is Priscilla Romero on the call. Priscilla Romero from Families Together. Okay, I'll circle back.
She's not in.
I'm sorry, what, Pablo?
She's not in the meeting.
Okay. I see, I saw Karen Argenti. Karen, welcome.
Can I talk now?
Yep,
Yes.
Karen, you're on,
Okay.
welcome.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Argenti. I'm with the Bronx Council for Environmental Quality, and I'm also a member of the Environment and Sanitation Committee, a community member of the committee. Somebody is talking.
There's background noise.
Yes, right. So I'll be very, very brief. I know you have a lot of things on your agenda, and it's the holiday season, so everybody wants to get home early. So everybody write this down. The Speak Up is going to be in person this year, finally, after 2 years,
Oh,
go in person. It's going to be on Saturday, February 25th, same time, 10 to 3. Oh, I think we cut off a couple of hours in the, we usually stay till 5. And it'll be at Lehman College. More information will follow. Some of the rooms are available or not available, but all that waits to be seen. This year's theme is, it's the 30th year since the publication of the Greenways study that was done by Borough President Fernando Ferrer. And so it's like, where are we now? Where have we gone? And it also, as that was the momentum for forming the Speak Up, because everybody came together and started talking about all these greenways that were put on a map. It's about, I don't know, 12, 15 greenways, and it's very interesting. So everybody's invited to come. It's a free event, and at some point, we're not ready yet, there'll be a notice that will go around. And the other thing I was going to talk about was the Army Corps of Engineers, but we ended up getting a extension on that. Originally, comments period was to be for January 6th. That's the Army Corps of Engineers are trying to handle our the surge, if there's a surge like what happened with Sandy. The Superstorm Sandy, but so they have proposal to do surge these gates and like to close off the and then put some walls up. But it has been extended till sometime in March, beginning of March, and you can also hear about it at our Environmental and Sanitation Committee meeting, which Camelia will probably tell you more about. That's on January 3rd. Okay, bye, everybody.
thank you, Karen. Always great to see you. Bye-bye.
It's Amy. Bye.
Laura,
Matt
you have
Turner?
Laura, you have a couple of hands up.
Yes. Rob and
Yeah,
Bob.
mine's one. Yeah, so I just need to do the announcement. If there are any agencies present, could you please announce yourself?
Hello, my name is Miguel Matos. I'm with the Bronx Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome, Miguel.
Hello. I met some of you last week on the walkthrough. It was a pleasure.
That was great. I'm sure that Nick will talk about that in economic development.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sean Blayton, and I am a deputy director with the Bronx South ACS, Administration for Children's Services, and I have a couple of my other managers on the team, and my team actually covers CD8.
Welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'm sorry, your name again?
Sean,
Sean.
yes, SHAUN Blayton. Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome.
Mhm.
Okay, continuing with our.
No, Laura, sorry,
Yes.
Laura, we
Yes.
still have hands up.
I guess. I'll
specifically
put up the
mine, but there are
participant.
others.
Okay,
Right.
Nazum Nazar.
Nazum Nahar.
Hi.
No, no, no. Nazun, are you a city agency?
Be careful, I love you. Hi, my name is Nazman Nahar. I am with Metro Plus Health Plan. We help, New Yorkers to get health insurance, to provide education, how to enroll in the health insurance, and any other information they might need.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Laura, before you go, friends from city government, just put your agency name next to your name, and that will help. Madam Chair, you can continue with the meeting.
Okay. I will continue. Is Matt Turnov here? Matt? Is Matt on the call? He's down for the gallery. Okay, I'll circle back. Is Dee Burke on the call? Dee Burke?
No, Laura.
Okay. Is Veronica Sexton on the call?
Laura, I'm on the
Women-
call. I just couldn't unmute.
Okay. So Dee, go right ahead.
Hi, good evening. I called for the gallery session to raise some concerns I have about things that are happening with the DOT around the city. A couple of weeks ago, I had occasion to be by Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center crossing Broadway. And what I saw was that an ambulance had difficulty getting by, and there was a bus there. And what I think mitigated against it was all the bollards and changes that were made in the street, which made me think about the unintended consequences of some of the things that the Department of Transportation has done. And all of them are good ideas, but taken in their totality, they really mitigate against safety in the city. There are reports now that the time for fire and emergency medical assistance is being delayed. School buses are getting to school late. And although unscientifically, it appears that all of the things that are being done in their totality may be slowing traffic, but they're slowing traffic to a degree where the city is becoming unsafe. In some ways, when you think about the turning radiuses for fire trucks, they can't get by. When you think about the sheds and the bike lanes, not the bike lanes, the bike parking in the streets that are closing off fire hydrants. And I think that the unintended consequences of some of these things have to be taken into account in their totality. And like I said, they're all good ideas, but some of them are really problematic. Think about what's given over to parking. A ride share is a great idea, but we're also giving parking to construction sites in the city. And I was walking along 2nd Avenue, and nobody can get by on First Avenue. Nobody can get by on First Avenue with all the construction and the parking that's taking place. So that's my thought, and I would like people to just think about all of these wonderful ideas and take it in their totality. And it seems like the Department of Transportation there's an expression in Spanish that the monkey knows which tree to climb. And it seems like the Department of Transportation will go to a specific person or a specific area to get traction for some of their ideas. And they really need to be looked at in their totality, because there are other ways to slow traffic lights. Slowing traffic is a good idea, but blocking traffic isn't. But anyway, thank you very much. And everybody should go down around Columbia Presbyterian Hospital and see how the ambulances struggle to get by. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dee. Let me circle back. Is Priscilla Romero from Families Together on the call? Pablo. I don't know if it's a phone number.
No, Laura.
Okay. Is Matt Turnov on the call? Matt.
No, Laura.
Veronica Sexton. Veronica,
Hi, yes, I'm here.
great,
I'm
thank you.
present.
Welcome, Veronica.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for having us. So
pleasure.
my name is, did you want us to start yet or?
Sure, sure, go right
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, can we share our screen, my colleague?
I
Sure.
actually
I'll
have
give you access.
3
Give me 1
minutes.
second.
It's really not that much time to share screen. We generally don't. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, it's fine. So good evening, community board. Let me put my camera on. My apologies about that. Okay. So good evening, Community Board 8 members, residents, and guests. Before I proceed, I would like to start by thanking Laura, the chairperson, for the invitation to speak here tonight. My name is Veronica, and these are my colleagues, Leah and Hayden. We are here tonight to provide you with some information about our organization, Women Creating Change, which was formerly known as the Women's City Club of New York. Well, we had a few slides presented that we had made up, but I also wanted to let you all know that Women Creating Change we refer to it as WCC for short, and we were founded in 1915 in the midst of World War I. And prior to women being granted the right to vote, WCC has a deep-rooted history in advocacy and public policy, which continues today through our programming and work, which is part of our mission. And I'll
Hi,
pass that on to Leah. Sorry.
Thanks, Veronica. Hi, everyone. I'm Leah. I also work at WCC. So as of 2018, Veronica mentioned our history. The organization revamped itself with a new name, new vision and mission, now to increase women's civic engagement with the goal of creating a more just and equitable New York for all. Our focus in particular is on engaging women who come from marginalized communities and have most often been excluded from civic spaces. We work to achieve the mission through our main program, which is called Civic Matters, and we do that through policy and advocacy work. The policy and advocacy work aims to challenge the systemic barriers that inhibit women's participation. And then Civic Matters offers opportunities for women to learn, act, and connect, to learn about civics, to act on issues that they care about, and to connect with others to ultimately create change in our communities.
Hey everyone, my name is Hayden, and I'm just going to pick up on Civic Matters. Our program specifically work to reduce barriers to civic engagement through free workshops and trainings on topics such as advocacy, storytelling, and knowing your rights, to name a few. Paid leadership opportunities, such as our design team, where we create workshop curriculum based on their community needs, and access to resources and networking. And so as there are ample opportunities for you to tap into our resources and to connect with our community of people looking to make change in their community, either by signing up for our newsletter, which is on our website, wccny.org, to stay up to date on action opportunities in the city, attend a free workshop or event to network with other New Yorkers, community board members, and WCC city agency partners, and to connect with someone on our team to learn about creating a custom workshop for your community board or group, or working on an issue that you guys care about, with the overall goal of ours being to be a resource for your community advocacy. So please feel free to stay in touch and reach out if any of this sounds interesting to you, or always looking to connect with people who are getting involved with their community and amplifying the importance of participating in one's community. So I'll pass to Veronica to close this.
Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and we look forward to working with you.
Veronica, there are, all of you, wonderful to hear from you. There are a number of our committees that I think that your fuller presentation and slide and knowledge might be an asset. So it was wonderful introducing your organization tonight, and we will definitely stay in touch.
Yes, thank you again, Laura.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So last circling around, Priscilla Romero or Matt Turnoff. Matt? Okay, so that concludes our gallery session. I thank all the participants. And next we'll go to report from the Borough President's Office. Is representative of the Borough President's Office on the call?
No, Laura.
Okay, report from the 50th Precinct. I understand Captain Azuna.
The captain is on.
Hi, how are you? I'm here.
Okay, that's wonderful. Captain Azuna, the floor is yours. Great to see you tonight.
Hi, I just want to introduce myself. This is the first time I'm sitting in one of your meetings. I'm the newly appointed executive officer of the 50th precinct. And it's a pleasure to meet everyone, and I'm eager to listen to everyone's complaints or whatever issues we could all solve together here.
And next to you is that Lieutenant Hanley?
Haney, yes.
Haney, well, welcome also. Wonderful.
Thank you.
You have a report of how things are going in the precinct.
Right now, the precinct, pretty much, we're a little bit up in crime. We're up 40 versus 29 last year. That's a 30% increase. And we're up that's for the week, for the 28-day period, we're up 132 crimes versus last year, 105. That's 25% increase. Most of our crimes are driven by grand larcenies and grand larceny autos. So we have a lot of crimes from autos here in the area. But also with that, we have our arrests are up by 200% and our criminal summonses are up also tremendously. So we are working hard to keep these crimes down with our minimum staffing. And that's pretty much what I have for right now.
Okay, well, wonderful to see you. And we have time for, say, 3 questions.
Sure.
Are there any questions for the captain? And this is your first visit to Community Board 8.
Yes.
We're going to work to make a good impression. Okay, I see Bob.
Thank you, Laura. Captain, you said something about minimum staffing. Can you say a little more about that? Are you understaffed at the present time? And if so, can you tell us why?
At the present time, we are very short, and that's citywide. We're trying our biggest efforts to do more recruiting. And we usually have 175 cops assigned to the 50 precinct. Currently, we have 125 cops. So we're turning out 3 to 4 sectors a night. We should be turning out 6. But I was told that now we have a class graduating at the end of December. So by the start of January, I should be getting at least a minimum of 25 to 30 more officers. So that will help a lot, alleviate our shortage.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Public
Look
Safety
forward to
Chair
that.
Green has his
I
hand raised.
see Ed Green and Chuck Merdler. That will conclude the questions. Ed.
Hey, Captain Ozuna, I met you briefly at National Night Out. So as Bob Ender said, I am chair of Public Safety Committee. I was wondering if you're going to be with us next Tuesday and would be able to make our meeting regularly on Tuesdays. It's the 3rd Tuesday of every month.
Sure, I'll put that on my calendar. That's the 3rd Tuesday at what time?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Sure, I'll be there.
And it'll be Zoom until further notice. We were meeting at the precinct, but that I guess that's a month-to-month thing right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck. Chuck, are you muted? Did I see Chuck's hand up before?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, very good.
Captain, I'm going to ask you the same question I've asked your predecessor and your predecessor's predecessor. Go to Johnson Avenue on any morning and tell me how many cars manage to get through at the same time going in any direction. Because you have the ghost sidewalk cafes, you then have the double parked trucks, and then you have the parked vehicles. And you have, in effect, one lane open. But you don't have an officer to hand out tickets. You don't have a police officer in sight. Ever. Isn't it time you did?
Sure, I'll look into that and I'll work with that. Is that a school? Is there a school nearby on Johnson
No,
Avenue?
the schools.
What is the intersection on Johnson?
An intersection area, it is probably the central business district of the Up the Hill Riverdale community.
Okay.
when you mention the schools, now let's take a look at the schools where you have a similar phenomenon going. Thanks to DOT, about which one person commented previously, and about which I will comment more when we get to its giveaway parking spots. I'd like to ask you, would you please ask somebody, any police officer that you could assign for one morning to go near the schools, just to take notes,
Sure.
go near the central business district area and tell you what a mess you've got.
Okay, I'm gonna collaborate with Department of Transportation to see also if they could give me a
That's-
couple of
That's,
traffic.
that's talking to yourself. If you go and send a police officer, then you will get a response. If you want to talk to the Department of Transportation, you're talking to yourself.
Okay, so I will have, like I said, I should be getting a few more officers at the end of the month. And I would definitely get more traffic guys in the morning around that area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Thank you. We'll move on, Chairperson's report. Please see the Executive Committee minutes that were distributed for my full report. We'll move on to the Treasurer's report. Scott Croppinger. Scott?
Hi, Laura. Paolo, are you gonna put the treasurer's report on the screen? Oh. Okay.
I have to.
All right, so this is the updated report for December. Table 1 there shows updated personal services, and other than personal services is updated to reflect the salaries that have been paid the last month. And other than personal services is updated to a small increase in the expenditures made with respect to those object codes. And then if we go down to table 1.1, we have a breakdown of our other than personal services expenditures. Our budget's $40,091, and the remaining at this time is $32,862. There was a question raised by Rosemary at the exec meeting regarding object codes and expenditures dedicated to enhance the hybrid meeting model that we've been doing since the pandemic started. I had a chance to speak with Kira, and she got back to me with respect to that. So far this fiscal year, we've purchased additional speakers for the meetings in the conference room to make the sound better. We've purchased an external camera for the laptop, extension cords, storage SD cards for the video camera, and light bulbs and various other miscellaneous equipment that hopefully will enhance the hybrid meetings going forward. Moving on to budget modifications, there are none at this time. 1.3, section 1.3 is 3,097 in, those are allocated expenditures that have not yet been paid out that appear on the OMB report. And then if we scroll down to the end, Pablo, rent and energy details. So that's for reference. As you all know, we don't have any control over the rent and energy payments, but we keep that in the report just to keep everyone updated.
Excellent. Any questions? Dan? Thank you, Scott. Dan?
No problem.
Hi, Scott. Just, I guess, as a threshold question, at last month's meeting, before you were elected, I'd asked if there would be a report from, the last fiscal year, an end of year report. Do you intend on giving one of those reports?
No, as I understand it, the written report was given at the end of the last fiscal year in June, correct? And that was circulated out?
Correct. So I was just wondering if you would be presenting one at a board meeting.
As I understand it, well, not today. I'll tell you that much.
No,
So,
fair enough,
right,
not today,
right.
but in the future.
If you have any specific questions, Dan, about the end of the fiscal year from last year, I'm more than happy to talk to Kira and get answers to you.
Okay, so I did alert you to two questions that I had, and if you don't have an answer tonight, it's understandable that you don't. I know you're newly elected. So the two questions which I'd asked, the first one was, at the end of June, it was relayed to us that we had approximately $12,000, in the bank at that meeting, roughly. and that we had anticipated spending another 6 to leave us off at 6K. But I noticed that, at least the report that I'd seen, the written report, it appeared that there was about $15,000 or $16,000 left. So I guess the question was, is there something that we wanted to spend money on that we could not spend money on? Or was there a reason for like the difference in, I guess, the anticipated money that was left over?
And for the last fiscal year.
Yeah, for the last fiscal
Right,
year.
right. That's something I have to
And-
talk to Kira about. And I'll certainly
Yep.
get back to you.
Yep, so by next month, that would be great. And the second question is, in the end of year fiscal report, it looked like there was no money spent on teleconferencing materials. And I guess the question that I had relayed on to you was whether we didn't spend any money on teleconferencing or if it went into maybe another budget item.
Right, right.
And
That's
and those are the
again,
two questions that I had.
yeah, totally fair. I'll talk to Kira and we'll get that squared away.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
No problem.
All right, moving on to the report from New York City Department of City Planning. I don't think that they are on this call. Hopefully, we will be meeting at land use, however.
No, they're not, Laura.
Yeah, okay. Before we proceed with our committee reports, roll call. We can do the
Okay.
roll call. Thank you.
Sylvia Alexander?
I thought I saw.
Yeah, I saw her.
I had to unmute myself, but I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay. Constance Barnes Watson,
I'm here.
Bob Bender,
Here.
Kelly Buford,
Present.
Christopher Calhoun,
Here.
Lee Chong,
Present.
Sebastian Chitalapoli,
Present.
Lisa Daub,
Present.
Ingrid De Leon. I saw Ingrid. Ingrid,
I thought I saw her too.
I saw her. She's definitely here, but we'll come back. Margaret Della. Margaret Donato. She's here. There she is. You're distant, but I can hear you. Moses Isema.
Present.
Bob Panuzzi. Okay. Nick Fazio.
Present.
Steve Fruit.
Present, I apologize for no video. I'm having trouble with my
Oh, okay.
connection.
David Gelman. Is he here? He is not.
You know, he told me he might be out. I wasn't. He
Okay.
wasn't sure. Okay.
Rosemary Ginty.
Present.
Julia Gomez.
Present.
Ed Green.
Present.
Rashida Hilliard.
Here.
Rob Jaklowski here. Myra Joyce.
Here.
Bob Kaplan is not. Scott Krompinger,
Here.
obviously. Rita Proctor Lowe. Rita.
I saw her.
I saw her.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, now I can. Yep.
Yes, okay, all right, thank you.
Chuck Merdler.
Yep. Here.
Ted Morris. Ted Morris. I saw him. Ted.
I can't say that I did.
Yeah. Let me just quickly.
We could circle
Oh,
back.
no, I guess, okay, I'll come back. Omar Murray.
Yeah.
Dan Paternak.
Present.
Julie Reyes.
Present.
Georgia Santiago. Not Ram Singh.
Present.
Laura Spalter.
Present.
Leona Tetton.
Present.
Emilia Tepelis.
Present.
Deb Travis.
Present.
Stephen Vasquez.
Oh,
So
he's,
he sent an email, Laura,
Okay.
to us.
right,
He's
right,
out.
right. He called, you know what, I forgot. Yes, he He
Okay.
emailed me. Yeah. he's in
Sergio
here.
Villaverde.
Present.
And Marty Walpoff.
Present.
Present. And I was asked to read out those names who are absent for the record, and they can correct me if they're not. Ingrid, who I feel like I saw De Leon earlier. Margaret Della, David Gelman, Bob Kaplan, Ted Morris, Georgia Santiago, Stephen Vasquez, absent
Okay.
at 7:33.
Okay, great. And if you have to leave early, just send us send us so that we know for any later votes. But hopefully we're going to be finishing tonight by 9 o'clock, and we won't be losing anybody at the end of the meeting. So let me welcome Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to hearing you.
Good evening, everybody, and good luck on that 9 o'clock. I hope you succeed.
Yeah, right. I hope so too.
I'm just going to mention a few different things, little and big. So, as you know, my office, the councilman's office, the community board fought and advocated to get a new traffic light at K-Pop in Johnson after the horrific and unfortunate death of one of our local residents. And we actually got it pretty relatively quickly. Well, lo and behold, about a week or so ago, DOT put up a sign as you go up Johnson Avenue towards K-Pop that said right turn on red permitted except during weekdays between 7 and 4. So why they would do that, they put up a sign, you can make a right turn on red, except on certain days, but not other days, and only during certain times of the day, nothing but confusion. And I believe the horrible accident that took place actually took place during a time of the day when they would have allowed a right turn on red. Now, I'm not sure who decided this was a good idea, but somebody must have asked for it. It wasn't me. But as soon as we saw it, we asked DOT to take it down. I mean, it's hard enough for people to get used to a new red light, let alone a new red light, but here are the exceptions. And interestingly, I think I read today that in, maybe it was DC, they're talking about changing their law to no longer allow right turns on red. The fact is, when there's a sign that says right turn on red, most people, it always has to be after a full stop, but most people don't do the full stop. So it really almost nullifies the benefit of having that light there in the first place. So hopefully DOT will fix that problem. And not to beat a dead horse. So I drive every day practically up Riverdale Avenue to go to the Riverdale Y. I'm 256th Street. And you know, when we have to wait to make the left turn because DOT refuses to put in that left turn, the green left turn signal. So there are a lot of cars coming southbound. And the DOT's own study said that both in AM and PM, there are a lot more southbound than northbound cars. Well, now that all the cars are in one lane going southbound, that means you really have to wait twice as long to try to jump in to make the left turn, and you don't want to cut anybody off who's going southbound. So they, as expected, created a situation which in many ways makes things more dangerous. Hopefully no one will be in an accident. Hopefully they'll come to their senses and at least put in those left turn signals that that we've all asked for. But anyway, that's just one of my pet peeves. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk about this or not, but myself, the board, the councilman, and hopefully other elected officials, we're contacting again the city because, as I think you know, the AAPCI, which was the not-for-profit that was going to sponsor the proposed shelter at 661 Broadway, is out. And I think a lot of that's due to the advocacy of the board, of this community, pointing out all the problems that they have. And I, for one, but I think all of us believe that when they look at this issue, they have to work twice as hard to vet any organization that might take their place. Hopefully the city will look at a different model other than this failed model that they have. And they need to start the process from the beginning again and not just substitute a name. I mean, that's really a summary of what we're going to be saying, but I don't want to take away from what Laura or Eric or anybody else wants to say on that, but I just wanted to mention it because our advocacy and our fight on this has not stopped simply because there's not a weekly news story on it. It was a bad idea when they proposed it, and it's still a very bad idea. I want to thank those in the community who donated to our food drive that from my office. We collect food every year from schools, from various buildings, co-op buildings and others, and just individual people. And then we donate the food to the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center and the St. Francis of Rome Food Pantry, which is in the Wakefield section. And every year the needs seem to grow, not diminish, and that's unfortunate, but many people are very generous. So I just want to say thank you. The year is coming to an end, so we're starting on a legislative session. I'm not going to go into huge details except to say that I'm going to be leading a drive on legislation that's called the Climate Change Superfund Act, which is to make the polluters, namely the oil companies, pay to do the work that needs to be done to address climate change.
Yellow, red, blue, or green.
Here's an idea. Mute yourself.
All right, I was gonna say.
Thank you. And the idea behind the legislation is when we were kids, we were told if you make a mess, clean it up. Well, we want to make sure the people who made the mess clean it up. And there's a lot of other legislation I'm working on, but I'm not going to go into it now because I hear the clock ticking. So I'll end it there, but let me just wish everybody a very happy holiday season. I know Hanukkah is coming up in a few days. Christmas is a few days, and Kwanzaa right after that. So happy holidays to everybody, and most importantly, a happy and healthy new year. And you all know where to reach me. Thank you. Laura, you're muted. And now I am.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you and your office for all the work you're doing on the homeless shelter, to dot every I, cross every T, and that in terms of next steps, we have a call with you and Councilman Dinowitz and Senator Rivera on Thursday to discuss next steps. Also joining us will be Omar and Chuck, myself. So we'll be brainstorming on how to try to get this right. So thank you. I also want to welcome Councilman Eric Dinowitz and give him the floor.
Thanks, Laura. All right, so I won't repeat the right turn signal stop sign at Johnson and Kapok check that was taken care of, but I do want to reiterate something very important about the shelter that was already mentioned, but it bears repeating. One is, again, just because there's not a news story about this does not mean we stop working on it. This is something we've been continually working on since it came to our attention. And one of the key elements and key problems of this is the warehousing of humans. It's not dignified. It does not serve to help. It does not help the unhoused by shoving six to eight men in a room and not providing services. And it also hurts the surrounding community. So we have been speaking with community members about alternative models. We've been talking, reaching out to the administration. We do have the meetings, as Laura said. So this is something that is continually on our radar and something we are continually working on. So just a few other things. I want to remind everyone that composting is available in Community Board 8. It is something early on in my tenure as a council member we were able to get for our community. It is unique in the Bronx that we have that. And it is also important, if any of you were at my coyote webinar, we've been seeing more coyotes, and in response, we brought someone from Parks to do a webinar on it. And one of the things that she spoke about was not having your food in sort of rat-proof containers that coyotes can't get into. And those are composting containers, the composting bins. I encourage everyone to sign up for composting for the sake of our environment, but also because it does help prevent the proliferation of coyotes that we are seeing. Those of you who've been into these meetings know how hard I've been working on issues involving students with disabilities. That was my career before I joined the council. And now in the council as chair of the Higher Education Committee, we are moving forward on a bill that I've been speaking about for a while, but it helps provide easier transitions for students with disabilities in high school to college. Right now, there's no program, there's no program that seamlessly transitions them. They have to start this whole process over of evaluation in college, of finding the office for students with disabilities. My bill would actually connect high school and college so that transition is seamless, so students can actually just get the services that they need to succeed. Students who have disabilities are so much more likely to drop out of college and face other negative consequences as a result of not getting a college degree. So this will truly have an impact on our students. I think I've spoken ad nauseum about the 311 bills I'm working on, so I won't mention that. But my next higher education hearing is actually jointly with veterans, and it's about our veteran student population. And my previous chairmanship was the Veterans Committee, so this will be sort of a homecoming in a way for me. But I'm really looking forward to that committee meeting in January. Those of you who know, you know, CSX, daylighting with Tibbetts Brook. One of the first things that I did when I got into office, when I first spoke with the mayor, was CSX Tibbetts Brook. That was part of my first conversation with him, the previous mayor. And in one of the recent issues of the paper, you would have read that CSX is purchased by the city. So that can officially begin moving forward for this incredibly important environmental justice project that I know so many of you have been working on for years. And I do want to thank everyone here who has worked on that issue. Of course, everyone who's not here. It is incredibly important to our community that this project gets done. And I was really proud to do my small little tiny part in it, but I really want to thank you for that. And lastly, budget. We'll be voting on a budget mod soon, so you could pay attention to that. But really, budget application for discretionary spending starts soon. You'll be getting outreach from my office about that. I am in contact with the community board about your budget priorities, and those do speak to me when I talk about and secure funding for different items. I look at your budget priorities, and that's why I last year, for this fiscal year rather, secured funding for I think it was the Spine Dibble pond wall, for things at Van Cortlandt Park, the iron fencing, comfort stations, I think items at our schools that you put on your budget priorities. So continue that work, and the applications begin soon. And of course, reach out to my office. You know, your outreach to me impacts the work that I do, and I really try to be. My office staff tries to be responsive to your work. And I have Tanbir Chowdhury on the call, and he's the CB8 guy. And of course, the feedback that I get from you impacts the legislation that I vote on, that I sponsor, and that I propose in the council. So of course, thank you for your outreach, and I encourage you to continue that outreach. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have time for one question. Camelia, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you very much. And nice to see you, council member. Just a very quick question. We heard from the assembly member and some of his representatives on feedback on the school construction authority. But my question is really related to the visitation project. It is in this council district. If you wouldn't mind sharing with us sort of your thoughts on it. I think we are all welcoming of affordable housing, but we were quite overwhelmed of the scale of the design. So if you wouldn't mind making some comments from your point of view as far as the current proposed design that's on the table from the developer. Thank you so much.
So in terms of the affordable housing, you know, I'm very, very in favor of, sounds obvious to say, but in favor of affordable housing. We're in an affordability crisis. The problem that I have is the obsession with talking about affordable housing projects in the context of number of units, and the term sheets, the sort of the subsidies that the developers are allowed to get in provide a range of options for number of units, number of 2 and 3 bedroom units. What the developer so far has proposed is pretty much the maximum number of studio and 1 bedroom apartments units and the minimum number of 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. So I am working to get them to shift it to the opposite, the maximum number of 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. I'm working with Assemblyman Dinowitz on that. But part of that comes from the way that we talk about affordable housing developments in terms of number of units and not number of bedrooms. So there are a number of items that I'm working on from the council side, which they're still in the oven. They're not ready to be presented. I'm not, we're figuring out what is able to be done logistically and legally. But I think that is one of the key problems is that many of the discussions are based on units and not bedrooms. So that's, in a nutshell, more family size units. By the way, I believe that the teachers union agrees with me, because you have a school right there, you want more families moving right next to the school. So it's a logical thing too. It's the right thing to do, but it's also logical that next to a school you'd have more family units.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I just, Pablo, heard from Georgia. If you could give her a call, she was on, but for some reason we couldn't hear her taking attendance.
Okay, will do.
Let's see if we could reach out to her. Okay, she
Will
said
do.
she was on and now she's off. Call her back. Thanks.
Will do, will do.
And I
Technology.
see you, Bob Kaplan is here too. So
Yes. Okay, so moving on to our committee reports, and again, thank you very much, Eric and Jeff, for joining. We'll start with Youth Committee. Here we go. Julia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please see my November minutes. Our December meeting is going to be on the 28th. Please note the change of date and come hang out with us. We're a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Yes, you are. Next up is Aging. Lisa.
Thanks, and aging is a lot of fun also. We just
You're
had
a lot of fun too.
we have a great time, and you do good work. And we had our meeting yesterday, so keep an eye out for the minutes. That should be out soon. We had the Department for the Aging there talking about updates and the cabinet and the DIFT annual plan. And we had a great discussion on outreach, how we could work together to reach people outside of older adult centers. And stay tuned for our January meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. David is absent. Budget. Next on to Nick, Economic Development.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. Our last meeting was on Tuesday, December 6th at the Bronx Burger House on Marshall Avenue. We should thank Laura Levine Pinedo and the Bronx Burger House for hosting us and for all they do in the community. On Friday, December 9th, the Economic Development Committee, along with Chair Spalter and Kira Gannon, conducted a commercial walkthrough of the corridor near 238th Street and Bailey Avenue. I want to thank Kira for putting together the informational materials and bags that we were able to distribute to the merchants. And of course, Chair Spalter for her support of the committee's initiatives. We were joined by the Bronx District Attorney's Office, Officer Rasha from the 50th, and of course, Small Business Specialist Miguel Matos from the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. As part of our civic duty, some of us stayed behind on 238th Street and indulged in its authentic Bronx spirit and cuisine. So how's that for fun committees? We should thank the Public Safety Committee, on a serious note, for bringing up the topic of organized retail crime at their last meeting. And I want to thank Chair Green for sending over NYPD's fact sheet on the paid detail program, which we distributed to the merchants during our walkthrough. The committee will discuss future dates of walkthroughs at our next meeting. In the meantime, I want to extend my condolences to the former owners of Blue Bay Diner and express gratitude for their decades of service in our community. In conversations with merchants on Johnson Avenue and on 238th Street during the walkthrough, I have been reminding them that the city does provide lease assistance services through the Commercial Lease Assistance Program. And of course, CB8 has a very good relationship with legal aids attorney from NYC's Legal Aid Society that specializes in commercial leases. In closing, I want to encourage everyone to join us at a future date during our commercial walkthroughs. And in the meantime, please go to one of Community District 8's many authentic Bronx commercial corridors and spend money at one of the fine family-owned establishments and support the local economy in the process. The date of our next meeting will be announced shortly, and minutes from December 6th meeting should be out by tomorrow. So thank you, Madam Chair. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Next up, Sylvia, Education, Libraries, and Cultural Affairs Committee.
Hi, everyone. I sent in my minutes for my November 22nd meeting. However, I made a few errors in the attendance, and I just want to mention that I will be correcting it in my next minutes. One was that Constance Barnes did not have her last name Watson in there, which she wanted. Moses Seema was present, but I didn't recognize that. And Judith Green wanted her title Community Committee member who was present, and I will correct that through my next meeting. Since the meeting in November, it's come to my attention that we have a new cultural affairs institution in our community, which is community affairs is part of the committee. It's Edge Hill Church. It's being taken over by the Kingsbridge Historical Society, which is a wonderful thing rather than converting it into any kind of housing, whether, it wouldn't make any difference, but this is something that should live on, and Edge Hill Church is a landmarked institution, and hopefully at some future meeting, I will be able to get in touch with the Kingsbridge Historical Society and perhaps conduct a tour through the building, which I'm sure it must be very impressive. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Sylvia. Environment and Sanitation Committee, Camelia?
Do you hear me? Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Yes, we had a very successful meeting once again using the hybrid model. We had DSNY as representatives presenting on two special topics, the composting and the snow removal program. Our next meeting will be, we didn't have a meeting in December, but we scheduled for January 3rd as an early meeting for 2023 to get us started. And we are currently working on submitting input to the harbor and tributaries feasibility study, NYNJ HETS project. For fun, we are sort of planting daffodil bulbs, and I'm fairly certain that we are probably the Environment and Sanitation Committee in the Bronx that breaks all the records between Karen and me.
What happened?
You're
Amelia,
breaking up.
You have bad reception, so they can't hear you.
Goodness.
And this is my report. Just want to say.
Thank
Hello?
you.
Did you hear me? Guys?
You were a little bit breaking up at the end.
Oh,
but
thank you. Okay.
We got 99.
January 3rd, next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Camelia. Thank you. Health, hospitals, and social services. Omar.
Hi, good evening, everyone. There was no December meeting, so our next meeting will be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And we will be talking about COVID, the flu, and the regular cold. So we're going to be having Dr. Sandra Cunningham. She is the director for the pediatric emergency at Jacobi Medical Center. And I hope that you can come and listen to our information. I think it'll be very informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Omar. Housing, I know Stephen is out tonight, but is there
I
someone in
could-
his committee?
Laura, it's Lee. I could talk
Yes,
about.
excellent. Thank you, Lee.
We had a guest speaker. Our meeting was on November 26th. Guest speaker, I believe I'm saying his first name right, Marquise Jenkins. He's the co-founder of, I think, Residents to Preserve NYCHA. And the entire discussion was about NYCHA's new program called the Preservation Trust Program, which is I believe, a 10-year program to renovate 25,000 NYCHA apartments. This group has issues with the program as it stands now, and that's what we discussed. One of the major issues is that the program is going from development to development, and they're doing a presentation, and then the residents will vote. If 10% of the residents approve it, it's a go. That's too low a number according to this group, which I think the committee members agreed with that. Correct, Julie? Julie and I are the only ones that were there along with Stephen. And the other issue was they want an outside monitor to monitor the elections because they don't trust NYCHA staff. So that was the gist of the thing, and it's an ongoing thing. And they had a meeting at the which I think occurred the middle of December. No, it hasn't. December 16th is when NYCHA will come out with their final report supposedly, and we'll see what happens. The other issues we discussed was the possibility of updating our housing resource guide because it's 5 years old. And the other thing was talking about the new law that's going to take effect starting next year, Local Law 97, which impacts all buildings and for the most part in Community Board 8, multiple dwelling buildings. And the other issue is the AMI and Community Board 8, and in particular, the visitation site. And our next meeting is January 23rd.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lee.
You're welcome.
Okay, up next.
Laura, you have Chuck's hand is up.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Let me get my participant list up. Chuck, go ahead.
Lee, one of the things I would urge you to pay attention to in committee with NYCHA is that we have at HTC tried recently to target grants in money that have gone to them. So for example, we gave them $418 million to put drain pipes in and fix the roofs and fix the gutters and the like, fixing elevators. You ought to see if you are getting that kind of responsive action out of them. My instinct is it loses something along the way.
That's the concern of this organization, that the money that is coming from HUD for this program may not go to what it's supposed to go for.
And that would be an important thing if you can document that and buttress it in terms of dealing with it. I will tell you, every time the issue has been raised, some senior official from NYCHA comes in and says, oh no, here we are, we've done it. I don't believe it.
Well, I think our next meeting, and we need to talk to Stephen, is to get someone from NYCHA to come in and speak to us and get it on record.
Okay, thank you. Leading right into land use. Chuck, you're on.
The primary activity of land use at the last meeting was the second part of a discussion on affordable housing in terms of what are its misnomers and what are its deficiencies from the standpoint of what can be done without legislation. My hope is that together with people like Bob Bender and Marty Wolpoff and a few others, we're going to be able to put together a report that will go to the land use members sometime at the end of this year, well before the meeting, which I believe next meeting is the 12th of January, so that at that point we can take a vote on various aspects. Why do I say it's a misnomer? because it's now unquestionably demonstrated, at least I think it's unquestionable, that you can have a person who makes $150,000 live in affordable housing, charging a great deal of money, and a person of $30,000 living in the same house. It's all over the board, and they're all called affordable housing. That's not helpful in terms of people and in terms of need, because the need seems very clearly to be for people who make $50,000 or less in one wave and in one area. And that takes you to the problem of there is a real question here. The key to all of this is the average median income, AMI. And New York City's average median income is gauged in part by what the people in Scarsdale make and the people in Roslyn make, because they're both in the same district. So we're focusing on how to get that changed. That report hopefully will be the subject of action at the January meeting.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Next up is law, rules, and ethics. Marty.
May I be very rude, Laura?
Yeah.
I am reminded of something.
Go ahead.
We are trying to schedule a meeting of land use, which will probably have to be a special or extra meeting to deal with the visitation site and the housing portions of it. I'm waiting for a date from the Tishman people, but I've told them I expect to see them in January to go over where they are and where they're going. I will tell you that they have been in something of a quandary because the interest rate increases have effectively torpedoed their projections on what they would earn, what they would spend and the like. And they're trying to repair that and get that straightened out with the agencies that are financing the proposed development. The concept of the hearing would be somewhere around the 18th, if I can do it, if I can get them there, so that people can say what's on their mind. There is one other issue and that I have to point out to you. There is a lawsuit. It was started by a resident of the area. It's a pro se lawsuit. I will not comment on its merit, except to make the point that because of the pendency of that lawsuit, the School Construction Authority has refused to appear, saying it will not appear during the period of time when there's an ongoing lawsuit. I can understand their point, but they're dead wrong. They screwed around for a long time, failing to appear when asked. I think at this stage, they're a stop. I just don't think they are thinking in terms of community or of people or of need or of necessity, but just of arrogance, and I find that reprehensible. That's just my own view.
Thank you, Chuck. Chuck and Sylvia and I did have a call with the School Construction Authority, and we raised a lot of issues. That was the very beginning of December. And we pointed out our concern that they're not coordinating with Tishman, and that as things go on, there needs to be a lot of coordination as to what's getting built, where's getting the construction, the staging area, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we pointed out a number of concerns to them on that call. It's disappointing that now they have a reason, an excuse. Dan, your hand is up.
It is. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll go backwards. Chuck, first, I personally agree with everything you just said about SEA. I'll start there. Second, and it'll feed into something that will come later. I'm glad now that land use is taking the issue. I'm glad, Chuck, that you're calling for a meeting on the project at 160 Van Cortlandt Park South. And because of that, I think it basically takes away the need for my presentation a little bit later. The purpose of the resolution was basically to create something because there appeared to be a little stagnation as to who was going to be handling it. But now it seems clear that land use is going to be taking on the topic, which is wonderful. The primary purpose is just to get information out to the community. You know, when Tishman appeared in September, they gave us very little information. And I think what we got was a lot more questions presented. That being said, Madam Chair, I think we could withdraw my agenda item a little bit later now that land use is taking on the topic. And I look forward to the meeting in January with Tishman.
I will say.
And I'll say one more thing, notably, I went back and our committee list on land use, Chuck, we do have members, I think, of just about every affected committee. So each of our members on land use can go back and forth and act as conduits to the various committees. But again, thank you for getting Tishman in. I think it's going to be something that the public definitely needs. Thank you.
Let me, Madam Chair, say that the desire of moving forward with having this kind of a meeting, and believe me, I can tell Rodney what I want. I can threaten him. I can't drag him to the water. I think he'll be there. I don't want to get a number 2 or a number 3, frankly. I want to have number 1, which is what we've had before. I want to thank Dan and Rosemary and Eric Dinowitz for putting the heat on so we get this kind of a hearing with people having an opportunity to be heard on the subject.
Okay,
Thank you.
moving on, Marty.
Laura,
Oh,
Camelia has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Camelia. Sorry.
Thank you. Just a very brief question, if I may. I mean, given what Councilmember Dinowitz just said earlier, that we were trying to steer them away a little bit from single, like studio type of units towards more family type of units. But given what Chair Morler just said in terms of raising of the interest rates, which consequently makes their mathematics even more challenging than at the time when the project was presented to us, and definitely more challenging than at the time they bought the land. I mean, Chair Morler, if you would be so kind and share, it means for us that we have even higher challenges than we had, right? Like we were trying to steer them towards like multi-bedroom units instead of studios, but the rates going higher, they will press even higher on a higher number, even stronger on a greater number of studios. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to double check this with you, and we are grateful that you are in a position to have this type of influence with them. But if you wouldn't mind making a couple of comments on this, and also just thanks again for opening the committee to everyone that wants to join, everybody from the board to join in January. Thank you.
So let me let the cat out of the bag. Thanks to Eric Dinowitz and Jeffrey Dinowitz, I have been able to talk to the people at Tishman, and they are in the process of trying to redo the count so that there is a merger of smaller apartments and making larger family apartments. Don't know how that'll go, but they are in the process of trying to do that consistent with the mathematics. This is something that was just not conversation by Eric and Jeffrey. It's something that we've been able to get them actually to start down that road. The problem is the following. It makes no sense, but here's what we are told. HPD now and historically has given precedence in terms of the amount of money it will either subsidize or the amount of money it will lend based on the number of units. So if you have 500 single-family units, you will get a better deal than having 200 multiple units. That makes no sense. It is part of the no sense attitude of just following along, which people have been doing for years. I will also tell you that the issue has been called to the attention of Adolfo Carrion, who is the HPD commissioner and who is quite sympathetic to the issue as a problem. So I will tell you, letting the cat out of the bag, this is something that we have been actively working on. Thank you.
Thank you all. Seeing no more hands, Marty, Law, Rules and Ethics Committee.
Yeah, I need to apologize in advance. I'm using my iPad And I see that my battery is, even though plugged in, is next to 0. So I
Uh-oh.
may blink out and I'll switch to my phone, but I want to get done as much as possible. First, on land use, we have been meeting with STAG. We met in November. We have a meeting scheduled for next week. Our relationship is a very good one on this project. I just have one issue I want to make a public service announcement on, and that is last month we passed a resolution to enable STAG to do more, to have an extra hour for construction and delivery of cement so they could build their house, their building more quickly. Apparently, there were complaints from the community, went to DOB, did not come through the community board, so we could not be of any help. The fact is, at this day and this time, I still don't know who complained, how many complaints, or the nature of the complaints, so that we could not be in a position to be helpful. What has happened is there is no construction at all on Saturdays, which is slowing down the project. And I'm not sure that's in the best interest of anyone at this point in time. That's my report on that. Now, as far as LRE is concerned, I want to clarify a number of things that was said tonight. I want to clarify that we have, except for once when we attempted it back in September, nobody, repeat, nobody in our board has had a hybrid meeting. So let me try and explain what a hybrid meeting is. Excuse me, so there's no confusion. There are 3 kinds of meetings. One is under the current law and the past law. We have first, under the governor, had an executive order enabling us to meet by Zoom. Now we're under the mayor's order, so we can meet by Zoom. Those are Zoom meetings. As far as I know, everyone who has had a teleconferencing meeting has had a Zoom meeting. As I say, in September, we tried once. The second type of meeting is in person. As we did way back before COVID hit. Everyone meets in one place, the public meets in one place. Whatever business takes place at that place. That's in person. If and when, now just note, the resolutions that were passed, Pablo, could you put my chart up? The resolutions that were passed by our board in, make it a little bit larger. This is part of the law. The law says that if we want to do hybrid, we have to have a public hearing, which we did, and we have to pass a resolution, which we did, too large. So that satisfies our ability, should we so choose, and so have the technology to do so, we could have a hybrid meeting. A hybrid meeting under the B requirement means that we need to have a set of procedures so that everyone in the board and the public knows under what conditions someone could have extraordinary circumstances so they could be off-site and still participate. We have to know how often people can use or request to have extenuating circumstances. We have to know the limit of number of people at any meeting could ever have extenuating circumstances. But the minute that we approve, and we have not done this yet because we haven't had the necessity, the minute that we approve someone to be in an off-site participation at a meeting, that becomes a hybrid meeting. When that becomes the hybrid meeting, then the public needs to be notified that this is a hybrid meeting and they can participate in the same way as a board member who is in extraordinary circumstances. So with respect to A, we are in compliance, have been in compliance on the premise that someday in the future, we might want to have a hybrid meeting. With respect to B, we have not done B yet. And since we have not done B yet, we cannot do a hybrid meeting because we have no procedures on how someone gets extraordinary circumstances and all the other things that need to take place subsequent. So B is important to do at the time we believe we're ready for hybrid. At the moment, we've authorized somebody to have extraordinary circumstance. Under those conditions, it becomes hybrid. And then again, the public has to know, and we have to have rules in place or procedures in place. So two questions came up. Question number one is, why didn't we vote on this in November? The fact was, and I take some blame for it, because on 2 attempts, I had wanted the draft to go out to the executive committee and go out to the full board. It never went. It went this past month when I sent it out after the board meeting. But the fact is, I believe a vote on a document that nobody had seen or read or discussed was inappropriate and unrequired. The second major disaster that's going on is I'm being accused of not being pro-democracy. Why can't we vote on this? Well, we certainly may vote on this. When LRE comes up with a draft and makes recommendations to the committee, we could decide that there should be a vote, but that's a decision that we make. The Committee on Open Government and the Borough President have both put in writing that there is no need for a vote. And historically, Community Board 8 has had many occasions when procedures were put in place, discussed with the board, and we move forward without a vote being taken place. We can do that. Again, LRE will make that decision when they come up with a set of procedures to share with the executive committee and to share with the board. At this point, looking at my 4% left of my computer, laptop, sorry, iPad, I will end here unless there are questions.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you. We'll move on to Deb, Parks and Recreation.
Hey there. Good evening, everybody. We actually have not met just because of the way the schedule has fallen since the last committee meeting. But our next committee meeting is on December 22nd at 7 p.m. I'm excited. We're going to have the new Bronx Parks Commissioner, Jasenia Aponte, and we'll be talking about kind of Bronx Parks priorities. We're going to be discussing parks composting with her. We'll be talking about our request for a PEP command, which I'm looking forward to her expertise. She used to be the chief of staff of PEP. And then we're also going to be having a presentation by the Amateur Astronomers Association about their proposal for the only public observatory in New York City, which they would like to place in Jerome Park, which is the park right beside Gatehouse number 5 on Goulden Avenue at the Reservoir. So come and find out all these exciting things.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you. Great guess. Next up is Ed, Public Safety.
Good evening, everyone. So, Pablo, I guess we have resolutions that can go up. Anyway, public safety we have 9 resolutions, and we had 5 renewals and 2 new applications. And unless anybody has any objections, I'd like the board to vote on these separately from the other 2, because the other 2 are a little more involved and have a little bit more nuance. These were pretty standard. They were 5 renewals and 2 new applications, and they were all approved unanimously by the committee, and the 50th precinct stated they were unaware of any prior notable disturbances or complaints at any of these establishments. I'll read the names and the addresses off of each one. Mr. Yes.
I put the resolutions on the screen.
Yes.
Thank you. So, renewal application. This was for a full liquor license, Mr. Viggs, located at 5670 Marshallou Avenue. We had another one for renewal for wine, beer, and cider. That was from Moonstar Grill, located at 3519, 3525 Johnson Avenue. We had a renewal for a full liquor license for Kingsbridge Social Club located at 3625 Kingsbridge Avenue. And we had a renewal for a full liquor license for El Economical Restaurant located at 5589 Broadway. Another renewal, full liquor license, Bella Notte of Riverdale located at 3524 Johnson Avenue. We had a new application for a full liquor license for El Tina located at 5782 Marshallou Avenue. And the owners signed a 2 a.m. agreement and the board received it, 2 a.m. closing agreement. And the last new application was for wine, beer, and cider. It was for Emiliano Gourmet Market located at 5626 Marshallou Avenue, and a 2 a.m. closing agreement was also signed by that establishment's owner. So, like I mentioned before, all, you know, with the renewals, there was no issues reported by the 50th, and all 7 of these were approved unanimously by the Public Safety Committee. So I'd like to take a vote on this before I get to the other 2, because like I said, they have a little bit of nuance to them, and I just think
Absolutely, absolutely. Are there any questions? If there are none, is there anyone objecting to the renewal, the resolution to renew, or
and the 2 new ones?
Yes, yes. We're doing it as a package.
Correct.
Okay, I see no hands. Is there anyone abstaining? Then it's unanimously approved. And thank you for doing such a great job vetting all these establishments. So now we're approved on that. Why don't you continue, Ed?
Okay, the next resolution we have is an application for an alteration. And the alteration would be a sidewalk on the frontage, which is basically a private sidewalk cafe. It's an enclosed thing. So I'm just going to read it off. Whereas Maria de la Cruz, representative of Calle Bar and Grill located at 3638 Bailey Avenue, appeared before the Public Safety Committee on November 15th, 2022 to apply for an alteration to the establishment. Whereas at the September 20th Public Safety Committee meeting, 50th Precinct representative stated they had received multiple 311 complaints for noise, double parking, and other quality of life disturbances at the location of this establishment. Whereas Bronx Community Board 8 has since received a written statement from the representatives of Calle Bar and Grill detailing measures they have taken to address the areas of concern. Whereas representatives of the 50th Precinct stated they have received no further complaints about the establishment since the September Public Safety Committee meeting. Whereas the Public Safety Committee is satisfied with measures taken by the owners to address previous complaints. Whereas the Public Safety Committee unanimously approved this application, therefore be it resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 approves this application, and that was unanimously approved.
Okay.
So I'd like to vote on this.
All right, is there anyone opposed to this resolution? Raise your hand. Is there anyone abstaining? All right, again, then unanimously approved. We ended up here on our walking tour, and we saw those extra doors and hope that they work.
I heard.
Visited with them. It was an excellent tour. All right. So, Ed, anything else to add?
Well, we have one more resolution.
Okay.
So our last resolution was for Tijuana Nights, and it was for a renewal application and corporate change. It was a renewal for a full liquor license, and the corporate change was they wanted to remove the current owner from the application, and mysteriously enough, they did not provide the name of a new owner that we're aware of. They had someone on it, but it's very unclear. But I'm going to read this. It's a little lengthy, but it'll hopefully explain everything. So, whereas a representative of Tijuana Nights located at 216 West 242nd Street failed to appear before the Public Safety Committee on November 15th, 2022 to renew this establishment's liquor license, and apply for a corporate change. Whereas representatives of NYPD's 50th precinct stated that over the years, they've received many complaints about noise, parking violations, and various other disturbances at this establishment, and frequent complaints continue to this day. Whereas Assemblyman Dinowitz's office notified Bronx Community Board 8 of various constituent complaints and provided a lengthy list of 311 complaints against this establishment in 2022. Whereas Assemblyman Dinowitz's office sent an inquiry to the Department of Health about this establishment and several violations were found. Whereas a resident of 216 West 242nd Street stated Tijuana nights caused frequent disturbances and cited public drunkenness and drug use outside the club, harassment of building residents by the club's patrons, and loud music that disturbs sleeping residents until 4 a.m. He also stated he was concerned for the welfare of his wife and child because he suffered a broken jaw due to being assaulted by employees of the club. Whereas 216 West 242nd Street was previously occupied by an establishment called Barcelona Bites, which had the same owner and representative as Tijuana Nights and had a corporate change disapproved by the State Liquor Authority in 2019 for failing to provide required information about principles of the transaction. Whereas the Public Safety Committee has seen no attempt by this establishment to accommodate area residents and address the well-documented history of complaints against them. Whereas the Public Safety Committee unanimously disapproved this application. Therefore, be it resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 disapproves this application, and the Public Safety Committee approved disapproving this application unanimously.
Okay, are there any comments? If
I have
not,
a question. I just don't know how to raise my hand.
oh,
This
go
is
ahead, Julie.
The resident who states that their jaw was broken and various complaints against the establishment, has that been verified by the police? Were there any police reports made? Like, is it a verified complaint?
Well, this is what I was told by Officer Sala at the meeting. I believe when complaints are called in, they're called in for certain areas. So the short answer is no, not from that thing. But
Mr. Green.
Yes.
It's Lieutenant Tim Haney, sorry.
Hey.
I can actually answer the question, because I'm familiar with it if you'd like.
Perfect.
About the jaw being broken, is that complaint verified? Is that valid complaint?
Yes, it is. I'm familiar with the incident. It is verified. An arrest has been made regarding that as well.
Okay. Was that the police department talking? Because I can't see.
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for being on the call.
Thank you,
Was there a conviction on this? And was it
Sergio, 1 second. Your hand is up. You have the floor.
Thank you. I would just ask, and I had asked the board officer a question, is, in spite of the complaints, how many of these have been adjudicated and how many of them have been found to actually that the establishment is culpable? Because, complaints are important, but they're not dispositive of what happens. So do we know if any of these 311 calls ended up in dispositions against them?
Regards to 301 calls, I have to follow up. I don't have the information. It's Lieutenant Haney again, directly in front of me specifically for that address. Regarding the gentleman who was assaulted, we do know who the perpetrator was. Again, it was substantiated against the establishment with that Mr. Green read out. I don't know if I can really go into more than that regarding it.
I see Chuck's hand is up.
One complaint verified for this kind of behavior, in my book, is enough. This is a shell game. It goes from one name and one license and one corporation. This smells.
Okay, Ed, are you ready to call the question?
Yeah.
I see no other hands.
Bob Fernuzzi has his hand up.
Okay, Bob.
Ed, this is a friendly amendment. I don't think you need the potential hearsay. And I'm a little afraid of what would happen if this was to enter into an appeal after the adjudication of these charges. I just don't know that we want to be that specific. And I really think it does expose us to some, doesn't expose us, exposes the case. I think it's strong enough. And I'm a little worried about having complaints that haven't reached a court of law and been adjudicated, and I don't think you need it. So that's I'm going to abstain. I'm sorry. I just am afraid that this would be used to throw the prosecution awry if there was some kind of rush to judgment documented by a city agency. That's my comment.
Laura, can I respond to that?
Sure.
Bob, where's the hearsay? In which whereas clause are you
Well,
citing?
the complaint that, I'm just concerned, Ed.
You want to put
and
it back
I'm-
on the screen?
Yeah, that would help. Yeah.
Which complaint are you referring to?
The injury
Where
complaint.
he alleges his jaw was broken and he's scared for his wife. I mean, that whole paragraph really doesn't need to be in there.
The
Yeah.
officer just confirmed it.
He may have confirmed them, but I agree with
I don't think you need it. I think it should be more general, without calling attention to any case that could use this for or against prosecution or appeal. I just don't see the merit and the value to it. I just think a more boilerplate that says that there have been complaints issued about incidents on the premises and leave it at that. Make it more general, because you're kind of inviting scrutiny about a case that has not been adjudicated.
Ed, do you want to leave it as is? Do you want to make any
I'd like to
friendly
leave
amendments?
this. I'd like to leave
Okay.
this as the gentleman came out and he told us his story. It was very compelling, and I'd like to leave it as is.
but has
Okay,
the
so
person
see-
been convicted? You could be.
Wait, Julie,
accused.
you didn't have the floor.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Finish your comment and then we'll call the question. Julie, you have the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying he may have been accused. I agree with Fanuzi wholeheartedly. If that paragraph was out, I would definitely vote for this. But with that paragraph, someone could be accused of something, but until it goes through the court of law, like Fanuzi says, you could be accused, but are you convicted? And I think there's enough in this resolution that paragraph really isn't needed. Like Chuck said, this is not a good neighbor, you know.
Okay, I don't see any other comments. We're ready to call the question. Is there anyone opposed to this resolution? Please raise your hand. Opposed.
Sergio,
I'm sorry, what, Sergio?
opposed.
Take down the document so we can see the chat.
Okay, so Sergio, Bob Fanuzi, your hand is up, you're opposed.
Correct, Laura.
Margaret Della. And Sergio, did you say yes? You're opposed? Just, you
Yes,
know,
I was
yeah,
opposed.
I'm saying it out loud because when we end up doing votes, it gets very confusing. This way it's on the record. So we have 3 hands.
I can't
Fanuzi.
raise my hand. This is Julie as opposed.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
We'll add you.
okay. 4
Uh,
opposed.
Is there
Bob
anyone,
Fanuzi, Margaret Della, Camelia, and Julie. Okay.
is there
And
anyone?
Sergio.
And Sergio.
Right, thank you. Is there anyone abstaining?
Laura, Camelia, did we take note of that?
Yeah.
Yes, we got Camelia.
Okay.
Okay, is
Abstain.
there anyone
I can't raise
abstaining?
my hand, Laura, I abstain.
Okay,
Who's that? Nick?
Constance Barnes
Nick,
is abstaining, Ramdot is abstaining, and Bob, no, Bob was before. Okay, so it's two abstaining. Okay, so it passes. I assume everyone else is in support of the resolution, and it passes. Okay.
Rob, to
I don't
confirm,
see it here.
abstention is Constance and Ramda, right?
Oh, I didn't get Constance. So it's abstention is Constance,
Barnes.
Nick Fazio, and Ramdot. So that's 3.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for confirming.
Okay. Ed, anything else to add?
Just that our next public safety meeting is next Tuesday on the 20th, and it's a Zoom meeting, and that's it. That's all I got.
Great. Okay, thank you so much. Hope to visit many of these establishments over the holiday. Okay. Traffic and transportation. Kelly, you're on.
Hi, good evening, everyone. The T&T met on November 17, and the lion's share of the meeting was related to the car share, proposed car share program in the community. There is a resolution. Pablo, if you could please share that resolution. Okay, that's fine. Can you scroll down a bit? Perfect. Thank you. And the resolution reads as accordingly, whereas the New York City Department of Traffic and Transportation, DOT, first presented its permanent car share program to the Traffic and Transportation Committee on November 17, 2022. Whereas DOT stated that it would give Bronx Community Board 8 only 30 days for comment on the permanent car share program, whereas Traffic and Transportation Chair Buford and Community Board Chair Spalter asked DOT to give the Community Board 90 days to comment on the permanent car share program, whereas DOT stated that they would get back to Community Board 8 on whether they will permit comments beyond the 30-day period, whereas this is an interesting yet complicated proposal, whereas Community Board 8 wishes to have a meaningful merit-based discussion on the proposed permanent car share program with an opportunity to investigate the locations, inform the public, and elicit testimony from the community district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Bronx Community Board 8 rejects the permanent car share program locations in Community Board 8 based upon the failure of DOT to give Community Board 8 adequate time to review the proposal, especially given the fact that the presentation was not given to the Community Board to review the details prior to the November 17 Traffic and Transportation Committee. We had 6 members in favor of the motion and 1 member that was ineligible to vote due to an affiliation with the rideshare company. As everyone is aware, DOT somewhat sprung this item on us at the last minute. We asked for a presentation deck in advance to give to the public. We were not provided such a deck. And because we were not provided such a deck, and then the 2 presenters from Get Around and Zipcar did not give the community ample time to discuss it with, did not have ample time to discuss it with the community. The committee felt strongly that we just put on the record a resolution noting the, can you please take that off this screen? Thank you. The deficiencies in the DOT's timeline. And with that, I would like to call a vote or entertain any comments on it before we call the vote. Put on the.
Are there any comments?
I have a question.
Sure. Julie, go ahead.
Thank you. This is just technical. I just noticed ineligible to vote. Should that just be an abstention? Or is that how resolutions are written, ineligible to vote?
Is ineligible to vote because the person had a conflict. So they were not eligible to vote on the matter. The person actually works for Zipcar, and they have an and they are ineligible to vote per the rules.
So wouldn't they just abstain with cause?
No,
that's old fashioned.
They are ineligible to vote.
That's why I said it's technical. I just, for me.
Yeah.
The terminology.
We're showing our age.
Terminology is present ineligible to vote.
Thank you.
Okay, Camille's hand is up.
Yes, just wanted to share another perspective on this. I mean, I know it seems short, 30 days for feedback, but really what was expected by the committee, sort of 90 days, it's really a long period of time. Anybody that works with city agencies, I mean, we are called to produce so many deliverables over 90 days. I do think it's a little bit sort of unrealistic as an expectation for time frame, because the resolution is focusing on sort of process, not the substance. I believe it was Dan that put it forward. Also, just wanted to add what I said in exec. Our community board proudly provided a lot of new housing in recent years. All these new buildings have a deficit of parking spots. When they put up, 100 apartments, only 40 of them have parking secured. So if there is a way, and they said, DOT said that sort of the average usage for a single car is 15 people per month. So if there is a way for 15 people not to buy cars and not to occupy 15 seats, 15 spots on the street, this is the way to protect our community and secure shared and fair usage of public space. So if there is a way that 15 people agree to use a single spot, it means that we are saving a lot of parking by actually allowing them to use Zip cars without purchasing new vehicles. So just wanted to put that out there for people's consideration. For this reason, I will vote against this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Camelia. Chuck?
I have 2 points to make. The first one, in response to what Camelia just said, you can claim anything you want. You could have said 50 people will buy cars. They weren't local studies. They were studies, but not local. Number one. Number two, I made the point before that it was, in my view, a really inappropriate thing for DOT to do. And the reason was $475 was going to be charged for 2 parking spaces for a year. So if an individual store owner wants to park somewhere for a year, they're going to pay multiples of that. And if a tenant in a building, an affordable housing building without enough parking space, wants to park there, it's going to be multiples. But what makes it worse, and I think is the final touch that really troubles me, the Riverdale Press made the absolutely important point that before, I repeat the word, before we had them come up and see us, the permit had already issued. We were going to be taken in for show and tell when they'd already done the deed. That's the second time DOT has done that. They did it on Riverdale Avenue, and they did it here. It's hang them first and give them a trial or a hearing afterwards. I find that reprehensible. Thank you. And by the way, I don't blame the car leasing companies. I blame DOT for this. You don't do that. How can I honestly believe if DOT says to me, we'd like to have a public hearing on XYZ, that it didn't do it already 2 weeks ago, irrespective of what the community might say? That's no way to run a city.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, seeing no further hands, we're ready for the question. I see Steve Fruit just raise his hand. Last comment. Let's go. Steve, you have the floor.
I understand this resolution is procedural. I just, and this is for when if the committee further considers this sort of rideshare situation. My understanding is that in the past, spots have been inside garages. And I don't know whether that is a situation where the rideshare companies are actually purchasing at market rates or something, along the lines of what Chuck was saying. Basically, this is sort of a freebie from the public, with a scarce resource. I don't know how you balance these things in terms of fewer people owning cars, but I just want to point that out. That was my understanding. And of course, we have a resident expert in Deb Travis, but we want to just probably vote on this resolution now. Thanks.
Deb, your hand is up.
I can answer it. I mean, so first off, I work for Zipcar. I'm an employee of Zipcar. So just to disclose. And then the second part is that I've also been a member of Zipcar. I have not been a member of GetAround, which is the other company that's participating in this program. I can say that Zipcar are located in private garages all over Riverdale. There's several locations. There's both Manhattan College locations in the garage and at the lot at 242nd. There's several locations on the east side as well, on Putnam and down on 230th, down in Capoc. So those garages decide what their rates are going to be, and you know that's capitalism. And that the DOT did say during the committee meeting that the reason for the pricing or the way they were setting the pricing was based on a legal limit. So I think that that's just a different thing to take up. Is, you know, it's a very, very low amount. So I agree with you on that.
Okay, Kelly, ready to call the vote? Yes?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so you resolved, if you object to this, then you're approving the program because it's a negative. The Bronx Community Board 8 rejects the permanent car share program. So is there anyone opposed to the resolution? We have Camelia.
Amelia,
Okay, anyone opposed to the resolution? I see just one hand. Anyone abstaining?
Hey, Travis.
Deb?
Abstaining
Travis.
clause
Margaret
or
Della?
ineligible to vote.
I'm
And
also
wait,
ineligible
wait,
to vote as well.
Okay, let's
All right, just raise
okay,
your hand.
so
leave your hands up. We have Deb Travis, ineligible to vote. We have Margaret Della,
Della,
Ramdot, Rashida.
Singh, Rashida, Bob Panuzzi.
I don't
and
see any other hands, but
I believe
That's it.
Ramdot also said he was
I got
ineligible to
Ramdot,
vote.
yeah. So I'll
Yeah,
just
but
read
he's-
them out.
But just to
Margaret
make it clear though,
Della-
there's
ineligible?
abstaining and then there's ineligible to vote. These are two different buckets.
I'm a Zipcar member as well.
Oh, okay. So Ramdot and Deb Travis are ineligible to vote. And abstaining purely is Rashida, Hilliard, Bob Panuzzi, and Margaret Della.
okay, I think we got it. Okay, so the resolution passes. Thank you, Kelly. Anything else to add?
Yes, just to note that the TNT will not meet in the month of December, and our next meeting will be Thursday, January 19th. And have a great holiday, everyone.
Thank you. Of
Laura,
course.
you have two hands raised. Panuzzi and Patternage.
Bob Panuzzi?
Yeah, Kelly, thank you for your report and your work. I wanted to ask if the issue of the turn signals, left-hand turn signals, has come back to your committee on Riverdale Avenue after the new striping. I have to say I did abstain from the vote because I was concerned about I hadn't received enough information about what would happen at the school. And it is a bit of a mess in front of the school, PS 81, but otherwise I am thrilled with it. And I think it would really benefit from left-hand turn. So has the committee received any news about plans to institute these left-hand turn signals? I believe it was in a resolution that Deb Travis presented to our community board.
We have not received any updates on that, but when the DOT at the September meeting, the commissioner and the deputy commissioner did promise that they would revisit the matter within 6 months. But we can certainly reach out to the deputy commissioner and the commissioner regarding the left turn signals.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. We tie it off, and that came up a lot. So thanks and welcome to the job. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And thank you, Deb, for what you did for that program up in North Riverdale.
Okay, I see Dan and then Sergio.
Yeah, just a note, under TNT, I guess the question is really more towards the executive committee. If maybe we could start thinking about how to address this issue of DOT not providing presentations before the meeting. And if it's something that the executive committee can maybe brainstorm on different ways to handle, particularly on these topics where they're not going to give us more time. If we did get the presentation before the meeting from the agency, at least then we could review it, get a little bit more specifics.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Sergio.
Thank you.
And Laura, may I just comment on that?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. I really shouldn't.
It's okay. Thank you. Just so everyone is aware, we did specifically ask DOT to provide us with the deck well in advance of the meeting for that purpose. And that was one of the reasons we felt this resolution was appropriate.
Sergio.
I just wanted to bring to the attention of the committee and probably Parks and Environment and Sanitation of the project that's going on at the reservoir between Parat and Fort Independence. It's a major. They're closed. They took away 20 parking spots. The signs went up overnight while people were still parked there, and notice certain they've got something that they're doing, but I think it's Con Edison but it's another, just bring another community, and people are scrambling because some days you can park there, some days the signs are covered, some days they're not, but it's really disruptive, and I think the board should ask them what's going on.
What are the streets again that you first said?
It's
It wasn't clear.
Cedric Barat to Fort Independence.
It's on Sedgwick, it's Sedgwick Avenue from Parat Street up to Fort Independence Street. I think it's the DOT gas lines, but you should double check.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thank you, Sergio. I see no other hands. Kelly, anything else to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to Special Committee on Hudson River Greenway. Bob Bender.
Yeah, we did not meet, but I do want to very briefly just elaborate on something that Karen Argenti said during the public gallery session, which is that the city has passed a law that it will update the greenways map, which the current greenways map goes back to 1993. It's 30 years old, and the city has now given itself the task of updating that map by next year. And I do want to point out that the Hudson River Greenway is on that map as planned but unbuilt. So we're definitely part of the conversation that's going to be taking place about an integrated greenways network throughout the entire city that you're going to be hearing about in the coming year. So I just wanted to mention that as a little bit of background, and that's something that we will discuss when we do meet, which I anticipate will be in the spring.
Thank you, Bob. Special Committee on Racial Equity. Margaret? Margaret?
Hi, good evening.
Okay.
Hi. We didn't meet this month, but we'll be meeting the first Thursday in January.
Okay. Thank you. Seeing no hands. Special Committee.
Hold it. Margaret, it's Chuck Myrtle. I have a question for you to think about. With the effort of the federal government to reduce employment, there is going to be, and some people are hailing it because it will be the end of a recession, supposedly. There's going to be a reduction in employment. I think we have to be alert that that reduction in employment does not become an excuse for discrimination in employment. And to be sure that that's something that we all ought to watch, please, because there are some people and some employers who just don't give a damn. Any excuse in report will do. I would urge you to think about that.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Anything else, Margaret, before I move on?
Nope, thank you.
Okay. Special Committee on Veteran Services. Sergio.
I will refer everyone to our minutes. We did have a meeting. We have a tentative date November 5th of 2023 for the Memorial Grove ceremony. We're looking to maybe add one. And I would special note that came up, and I'd like to thank the committee and Rob Spalter, who was there. If you do see American flags on public buildings that are not serviceable, that's a 311 call. It's not supposed to be that way. It's a breach of protocol, and please call it in and let the board know. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. Moving on to,
Laura, Bob Kaplan has his
oh,
hand up.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I wanted to make mention, Chuck mentioned before, if there's a possibility of any discriminatory practices around jobs based upon any of the defined groups. As the Commissioner of Human Rights of the City of New York, if you are interested in our unit being involved in any thing that you might notice or bring to bear, we'd be more than happy, since we are a regulatory and prosecutory agency.
Thank you, Bob.
Laura, I'm sorry to beat a dead horse, but let me just take no more than 2 minutes of your time. Bob's very important point dovetails with what Margaret and her committee have been trying to do. Here we have a chance as a community board to provide a service for the people in the community who think that this idea of laying people off is right and use it for a discriminatory purpose. The community can then report that to Bob, and maybe we can do a public service at the same time by being accountable.
Thank you. Discussion of executive committee meeting minutes of December 6th. The minutes were distributed. Are there any comments? Bob, is your hand up from before? Or comment on the minutes? Bob? Ah, okay, it's down. Anyone opposed to the executive committee minutes of December 6th?
Laura, we don't vote on the exec committee minutes
Oh,
tonight.
yes, of
We
course.
just discussed.
We just discussed. End of night. Thank you. Any discussion? Moving on then to approval of the board meeting minutes of November 10th. Is there any comment or discussion?
I have one.
Go ahead, Sylvia.
As far as the LRE is concerned, the report was made that a resolution was passed to change the bylaws as Ms. Topoulos had suggested. My name was in favor, including 8 other people. To my knowledge, we all voted against changing the bylaws. I have gotten in touch with Marty. I think he's having a trouble with his computer. I think the office should get in touch with him and see what the story is so that it can be corrected. So I'm going to vote against it.
Wait, your name was, it was wrong in a vote? Is that what you're saying?
That all 9 people that were present at the meeting were listed as being in favor of changing the bylaws.
Oh.
That was not the case. We were all against changing the bylaws.
Okay, we'll.
Of course, you can get in touch with all the other members so that you can hear it from them.
A point of order.
Who is that? Steve?
Yeah,
go ahead,
I think that it had to do with the way that the minutes characterized that vote. There was a vote at the end of the meeting where the specific language was proposed, and it was almost unanimous to vote against adopting the language or in favor of the resolution, which said don't adopt the language. But earlier on, there was something procedural that took place having to do with whether the resolution should be modified or not. And so you have a group of people, some 9, as Sylvia said, who voted against the modification earlier, or maybe it was an agenda item. So it wasn't that the people were voting in favor of the actual resolution. It had to do with voting for accepting a change. And it's very confusing. However it is in the minutes right now, it's not sufficiently descriptive. And that's, I think, why I sort of looked at it and was confused. And Sylvia is, I believe, the issue
Well,
she's
how
raising.
about if we vote on it as amended? We go back and we look at that piece.
Well, you're
That
not
would be great.
amending it this evening, so I don't know that that is correct.
Well, let me just call for a vote. I understand your situation, your position, but if that is incorrect, we'll go back and it will be fixed. And so I'll call for a vote. Is there anyone opposed to passing the minutes? Dan and Rosemary.
No, I'm sorry. I just want to clarify the vote you're taking. Is it with this amendment that's going to happen?
Yes, it's as amended.
Okay.
As amended.
As will be amended.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let me repeat.
Laura, I think that still needs a little further clarification, if I may. So we're voting on it with the understanding that the vote that's recorded in the minutes for the Law, Rules, and Ethics Committee is inaccurate, so it will be corrected. Is that correct?
It is my understanding, and I can't get the minutes in front of me, that the resolution was to recommend non-approval. And we all agreed to recommend non-approval.
I gotta get
But
this.
we will look at it at the LRE meeting next month. And that's the report I made.
We will definitely correct the vote. Marty will be in touch on how this report is reported in the minutes. Camelia and then Lisa. I started to take a vote, so this is, I'm in the middle, I'm actually in the
Hold
middle
on,
of
Laura, because
taking
people
a
need
vote.
to know they're correct. They need to know what they're voting on. So if you allow me to just answer to Miss Alexander, Sylvia, respectfully, I do believe that you are correct in what you say, but wrong in your understanding. Meaning those 9 votes were votes in support of a substitute resolution. The substitute resolution brought forward by Marty. But then the other votes, and you're correct in that indeed LRE recommended not to in full, absolutely from LRE. But then there were 15 votes or so. I'm sorry, I don't have the document in front of me to proceed with the original resolution at the time of the agenda. So you did vote along with the 9 people to
Well, maybe that count was put in the wrong place.
Yeah, it could be that it's just the wording that needs to be clarified. Steve Fruit was 100% correct in what he just said before. It could be simply the wording, but Sylvia, you did vote correctly in the sense that you are voting along with 9 people to endorse the substitute resolution of Marty versus in advance of the point of the agenda where my full resolution was. I do believe that the minutes are fully correct, and I listened to that recording a bunch of times, and kudos to Bob Jackloff for putting this together. Thank you.
Let me just read it right now. It's very brief. Marty Wolpoff offered a substitute resolution based on the bylaws change resolution proposed by CTEPLIS. He made a motion which was seconded by David Gelman. Therefore, this was it, that the bylaws section 2 to be amended with the following additional sentence. Okay. The point is 9 people voted in favor.
For Marty.
Yes.
Yeah, for that substitute
And the
amendment.
thing is, my name is on there and I remember supporting that resolution. So the resolution failed. It only had 9 people in favor.
Right.
The substitute resolution failed.
Well,
okay, Lisa?
Correct this by just eliminating the resolution following the first resolution. And that would say, because we don't have to put in any resolution that failed. So I think it would be clearer if we just eliminate that resolution that followed substitute.
Correct, she's correct.
Okay, that's a good idea.
What was being voted
yes.
on.
You don't have to put in the, okay.
Just
one at a
just to
time.
clarify,
Sorry, go ahead,
just
Steve.
to clarify, what was being voted on was a procedural move that Marty suggested to change the wording of the resolution, not to vote up or down on the substance of the resolution. which should give Sylvia some comfort that she wasn't voting for the substance of the resolution, but she, along with I and others, were voting for the procedural motion to revise the resolution as it stood. I don't even know how it was revised, but it wasn't voting up or down on the resolution. That's the confusion. And I don't know how to
So,
word it.
so you're
I'd have to
saying,
look at the recording. Someone has to look at the recording again and simply make it jive with what that vote was about. That's all. It wasn't an up or down on the substance of the resolution. That I'm sure of.
well, I think there were the 9 in favor.
Right, there were.
And it failed and it opposed. So we have to just take this piece out, is what you're
Right.
saying. Okay, so we are voting. Let's start again. And thank you, Lisa, Steve, everybody. Sylvia, your hand is up.
No, I'm just saying that we shouldn't make the decision tonight without the information. We should go back to the office and listen to the tape and make sure that that recording of the 9 people in favor is in the right place.
Steve is correct. We did not vote up or down. The question was to put that in as a substitute motion. It was defeated. End of
Right.
discussion.
Yeah, that's it. It was just a procedural vote to put that on the agenda, that substitute language, and it failed. That's what the vote was.
All right, so how do we fix this, Marty? Or, and
The vote's in the right
Wait,
place. I think
wait,
you're
wait.
right to say remove the paragraph.
But yeah, I'm about to say, did we agree that we can remove it if it fails? So then we wouldn't, that would solve this issue.
So,
I
we
have
just state that it happened and there was a substitute motion and that people were in favor or not. Okay, is Secretary Rob, are you?
Dan has his hand up. Dan Paternock has his
Just a
hand up.
point of information. I know that might be the easiest way. I don't know that you can just eliminate a vote that was taken. And I asked the question.
No, not the vote, but the paragraph.
Right, just the resolution that came after Marty wanting to present a substitute resolution. There's a resolution that follows that should be eliminated, and then the resolution will follow, so only one resolution will appear.
But I think we took a vote. I think, and
I'm
look, I could be wrong.
gonna take the
It's
vote
later,
again
but
because I'm gonna take the vote again. Who is opposed to the minutes as amended? They will be amended.
Amended
Well,
how?
the amendment needs to be, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan. I'm
No,
sorry.
Bob, you're right. I'm asking the same thing you are, Bob.
The amendment needs to be clarified, Laura. And the amendment, as I understand it from the conversation, and now that I've had the time to reread it, the amendment is to remove the stated resolution, which is irrelevant because what we voted on was a motion that was made by Marty to offer a substitute resolution. And that we voted against, the result of the vote on the substitute resolution was not to do it because there were only 9 votes in favor and the majority were opposed. So where everybody's getting confused is because the resolution is actually in there and it looks like we voted on the resolution, which we did not. We voted on Marty's proposal to offer a substitute resolution. So if we just take out the resolution that's confusing everybody, then the minutes are accurate and we can go ahead and vote. And that would be the amendment that we're voting on to delete the
Section 2, where it says section 2, that whole thing.
No, where it says,
It says what?
therefore be it resolved, from
Or
there
be it
down to the
resolved.
vote. That's what comes out.
Okay.
That's the amendment.
Therefore be,
that
oh,
we'd
yeah,
be
right,
voting with
okay,
that amendment.
okay.
Point of order, point of order. Someone needs to make that motion and second it and treat it as an amended minute, and you have to bring it to a vote. So that means what Bob said, or Steve said needs a second, and then we can amend, we can hold a question on the amend minutes as amended.
Right.
You know what, Dave,
Friendly amendment.
Maybe because you're on the phone, I couldn't understand it. It was
I-
very muffled what
I think
Bob
I-
Dennis just said.
If I might, I think I heard Bob and I don't mind doing it. I would make a motion to eliminate that part of the minutes that from just underneath, he made a motion, which was seconded by David Gelman, that stays in. We
You don't-
eliminate, therefore be it resolved,
Mhm.
right? Made a motion, which was seconded by David Gelman, stays in. We then cut everything up to the vote, and all we do is take a vote, or we include in favor 9 and the rest. Is that correct?
That's correct, Dan. And I will second
And
that.
I will make that motion, yes.
Okay.
Right, and I
Point of
second it.
order.
And it
Point of
takes,
or-
it
Another
takes a
point of order.
village. All right, Dan, has made a
I heard a
motion.
point of order. Steve.
Madam
Steve,
Chair,
I think had a-
Steve Fruit.
Okay, I'm
Just-
sorry, Steve.
I'm sorry, I just, the point of order is you don't need 2 votes. You don't
Right.
need to vote on the amendment unless there's dissent. The only thing that's necessary is for someone to state, I think it's been stated, what's going to happen to change the draft minutes. And then everyone hears it, and then you can have a vote on that, on the minutes as amended in that way. And you do not need 2 votes. That's all.
Okay, so just to be clear, he made a motion which was seconded by David Gelman. We take out therefore be it resolved. We take out everything else and we leave in favor and we leave opposed. We leave the vote. That is how we're amending it. And
Correct.
I am very
Yes.
grateful. It takes a village, okay? So if we don't need all the other stuff, is there anyone opposed to approving?
Put your
the
hands
minutes
down,
as
Steve Fruit
amended?
and Bob Panuzzi.
Yeah, all hands down. Great. Is there anyone opposed to approving the minutes as amended? Is there anyone abstaining? Oh, wait a minute. The minutes are unanimously approved. And I thank you. And I know how this happened. How it happened is that we asked Marty, send in your resolution, you know what I mean? And it was just kind of piecemeal together. But it took a village, but we're there. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Motion, second.
Okay.
Second.
I want to wish everybody a wonderful, healthy, happy holiday, and we'll have our full board next year, and we'll all be 5 pounds heavier. Okay, so everyone have a great night. Thank you.
Happy
Thanks,
holidays.
Laura.
Happy
Thank you, everybody.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Best. Thank you.
Bye.